I was halfway through my sister's wedding speech when she raised her glass and said, "Let's all toast to my poor, unmarried sister Amelia, still chasing dreams in her little garage." Laughter exploded across the ballroom. Cameras flashed. Even my parents smiled. But what none of them knew was that I owned the entire venue they were standing in. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, share, and comment. Karma always wins if you believe silence is power. I stood there, forcing a smile as my own sister, Rachel, ridiculed me in front of 200 guests. She tossed in jokes about my used car, how I still rent, and even called me the spinster of the family. People laughed louder than the band. My aunt whispered, "She's always been a bit of a burden." I wanted to walk out. But I stayed. Because I knew what was coming. Just 2 years ago, I was exactly what they said: broke, jobless, rejected. After quitting a toxic corporate job, I started building a small AI software in my garage. No one supported me. My parents told me to get real. Rachel told everyone I was mentally spiraling, and I wasn't even invited to half the family events anymore. They said I was embarrassing. What they didn't know is that those late nights, crying alone with nothing but code and coffee, were worth millions. Literally. A year ago, my company was acquired by a major tech firm for $12.4 million. I moved into a penthouse. I bought this luxury wedding venue under a trust name. I paid for everything they were enjoying, and they had no clue, but Rachel didn't stop. She kept mocking me, now turning toward her groom, saying, "Good thing I didn't end up like Amelia, alone, broke, and irrelevant." That's when it happened. Her groom, Jason, stood up, placed the mic gently on the table, walked over to me, and with the whole room watching, bowed slightly and said, "Ma'am, would you like to say a few words?" As the woman who made this entire day possible, everyone froze. Rachel's face turned pale. Cameras stopped, and then I took the mic. You could hear a pin drop. I slowly stood up, took the mic from Jason's hand, and looked around the room. All those faces that used to smirk at me, now stiff with shock. I said calmly, "I wasn't going to say anything tonight. I came to celebrate my sister's big day. But since I've already been made the centerpiece of her jokes, maybe it's time for some real facts." My mother whispered, "Amelia, don't do this," but I smiled. You all laughed when Rachel said I was broke. What she didn't mention is, I paid for this wedding. The dress, the flowers, the venue, even the open bar you've been draining? All mine. Paid in full, under my company's name. You know, the same company I built in a garage while all of you avoided me. Gasps echoed. My father coughed and looked away. Rachel was frozen, her hand clutched around her wine glass like she was about to drop it. I turned to Jason. "You didn't know either, did you?" He shook his head slowly. "No. I just found out last night. From the venue manager." That's when I realized everything you've achieved, you did in silence. And they never respected it. Then I dropped another bomb. "And by the way, that used car I drive? It's a vintage 1970 Shelby GT 500. Worth more than Rachel's entire wedding budget. But I drive it because I like it. Not to impress anyone." The crowd started whispering louder now. I wasn't done. I stayed quiet all these years, letting you mock me, shame me, ignore me. But success doesn't scream. It whispers until it roars. Rachel finally stood up, shaking. "Why would you do this on my day?" I tilted my head. "You made it about me, Rachel. You made it personal when you mocked the very person who made this day even possible." That's when Jason said the one sentence that left the room in complete chaos. He turned to Rachel and said, "If I knew how cruel you were, I would have never proposed to you." And the entire crowd gasped. Rachel's mouth dropped open, but no words came out. Her groom, now vexed by the look on his face, stepped back from her like she was a stranger. "You humiliated your own sister to look powerful?" Jason said. "She lifted this entire day on her shoulders, and all you gave her was shame." The silence shattered like glass. People began whispering louder. Someone in the back actually clapped. I stood still, my heart pounding, not from anger, but release. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen. Rachel reached out for Jason, stammering, "Wait, baby, she's twisting everything. She's jealous. She's just trying to ruin our day." But Jason didn't move. He looked straight at her and said, "You know what Amelia did with her success? She didn't rub it in anyone's face. She used it to build something meaningful. Something real. And you used your day to break someone who's already spent years rebuilding herself. That says more about you than her. Rachel started crying. My parents sat in awkward silence, unable to process anything. My mom tried to defend her. She was just joking, she didn't mean it. I cut in gently. No, Mom. She meant every word. Because this isn't new. It's always been like this. My failure made you comfortable. My silence made you feel superior. And now that I've succeeded, it scares you. I turned toward the guests. To everyone here, I want to say thank you. Not for tonight, but for the years of doubt, rejection, and laughter. Every bit of it built the woman standing here. You called me a failure. You called me lost. But today, I stand here, found. There was an applause. Not everyone clapped. But enough did. Enough to make Rachel scream, "This is my wedding, not her TED Talk." Jason shook his head. Not anymore. He took off his wedding ring, placed it on the table, and walked away from her, but the twist wasn't over yet. Because what Rachel didn't know was that her biggest humiliation was still coming, live, on camera. The wedding videographer, still recording the chaos, whispered to his assistant, "Do we keep rolling?" The assistant nodded. She paid us. It's her show now. And just like that, every word, every meltdown, was being captured, not just for the wedding album, but for the world to see. Rachel, red-faced and shaking, lunged toward the cameras. "Turn it off. I'm the bride. This is illegal." The videographer calmly replied, "Actually, Amelia signed the contract. She owns the footage." Gasps again. Rachel stood there, humiliated, mascara smudged, mouth twitching as she realized this moment, her moment, wasn't hers anymore. I walked over to the DJ and handed him a small USB drive. "Play this." He plugged it in, and the screen behind the stage lit up. A slideshow began. But it wasn't family photos or romantic clips. It was my journey, clips of my cluttered garage, late-night coding sessions, rejection letters, emails of doubt, followed by the signed acquisition contract. The company name. The multi-million-dollar transfer confirmation. A silent room stared as my story unfolded. One slide read, "Built in silence. Revealed with pride." The final slide showed my new company headquarters, with a caption that read, "Now hiring, integrity required." Aunt Melissa wiped her eyes. "I never knew, Amelia." Uncle Mark muttered, "They did her dirty for years." Rachel screamed. "You're so full of yourself. You think money makes you better?" I turned slowly. "No, Rachel. Integrity does. Respect does. And I learned both the hard way, by surviving this family." Just then, someone at the door called out, "Amelia?" A sharply dressed man walked in, my company's COO, Daniel. He grinned. "Sorry I'm late. Parking was a nightmare. But the legal papers you asked for. I brought them." I nodded. Perfect timing. Rachel looked confused. "Legal papers?" Daniel handed me the folder, and I opened it. "You see, Rachel, this wasn't just a wedding gift. This venue is no longer under my trust. I just signed it over to an organization for abused women starting over." The audience murmured louder. Rachel panicked. "Wait, what? You can't just, this was supposed to be our honeymoon week here." I handed her the final paper. "You have 48 hours to vacate. You and Jason were supposed to stay in the bridal suite, but since he walked out, I guess it's just you now." And as the crowd erupted, I calmly walked away, with every camera still rolling, but one more person was about to speak, someone I never expected to take my side. And what he said changed everything. As I stepped off the stage, heels clicking against the marble floor, I felt a light tap on my shoulder. I turned, and there he was. My father. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but in presence. The man who once told me I was a disgrace to the family for quitting my job, was now standing in front of me, hands trembling. Eyes watery. "Amelia," he whispered, barely able to meet my gaze, I was wrong. The entire room went quiet again. "I spent years mocking you. Dismissing you. Telling people you'd never amount to anything. But today," his voice cracked, "you showed all of us what real strength looks like." I didn't speak. I just stared at him. Because for years, I craved this acknowledgement, not from the world, but from him. He continued, we raised Rachel to chase perfection. But we punished you for chasing passion. And now, we see who is truly brave. Behind him, my mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin. She looked shaken. And then, to my complete disbelief, she stood up, came forward, and said, "We failed you, Amelia. We saw your silence as weakness, but today, you made the world listen." Rachel stood alone now, trembling, surrounded by whispers, cameras, and shame. Her bridesmaids quietly backed away from her. Even her best friend Emily said under her breath, "You really did this to yourself." I finally spoke, soft but firm. "I didn't come here to destroy anyone. I came to celebrate my sister. But she decided to weaponize humiliation. And I've spent too long letting it slide." My father asked, "Can we make it right?" I looked at both of them. "I don't know yet. But today wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. Something I earned without your help." Then Jason reappeared. From the side of the room. He walked straight to me. "There's something else they all need to know," he said, voice calm but commanding. "Amelia wasn't just kind enough to fund this wedding, she also helped my mom, a cancer survivor, find the treatment center that saved her life. Quietly. Anonymously. She told no one. Not even me." Gasps rippled across the hall again. Jason looked at the crowd. "That's who she is. And I refuse to marry someone who shames that kind of soul." Rachel shrieked, "You're still defending her?" Jason turned. "No, Rachel. I'm choosing her, over everything fake this day became." I was stunned. "Jason, what are you saying?" He smiled. "I'm saying if I was ever meant to walk into a future with someone, maybe I was just at the wrong altar." And the whole crowd broke into chaos, because now, the groom wasn't just walking away, he was walking toward me. Jason's words hit like a lightning bolt. The room was stunned into silence, then exploded into gasps, murmurs, and the click of dozens of phones being pulled out to record this surreal moment. Rachel stood paralyzed, her once pristine makeup now a smeared mess, her perfect day collapsing around her like a crumbling glass tower. He walked toward me, not like a man who just left his bride, but like someone walking into his truth for the first time. I stepped back. "Jason, this isn't right. You just left your own wedding." He nodded. "I know. And I should have seen this long before today. But watching you stand there, calm, graceful, while they tore into you, and never once lowering yourself to their level, it made everything clear. I felt the weight of every year I'd spent being invisible to my own family. I remembered the loneliness of building my company from a garage, the rejection, the tears, the nights I questioned if I was even worth anything. And now, I was standing here, while the man meant to marry my sister, the same man who once never noticed me, was looking at me like I was the only real person in the room. Rachel finally found her voice and screamed, "You can't do this to me. I own you, Jason. We had a plan. You said," he cut her off, voice sharp. "We had a lie, Rachel. You pretended to be someone you're not. And you tried to destroy the one person who made this day even happen. If you can treat her like that in public, how would you treat me in private?" She lunged toward him. But the wedding planner and 2 staff members gently held her back, guiding her away as guests whispered, recorded, and slowly backed away from the disaster that once was a fairy tale. Jason turned to me again. "I don't expect anything from you, Amelia. I just want you to know that I see you. Finally. And I'm sorry I didn't before." I nodded, still shaken. "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted a peaceful day." He gave a soft smile. "You gave everyone here something they'll never forget. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with power, quiet, undeniable power." As the chaos settled, the guests started to leave. Many walked up to me, people who once avoided eye contact, and offered quiet apologies, compliments, even job inquiries. One older woman hugged me and said, "I'm sending this video to my granddaughter. She needs to see what real strength looks like." Even the wedding videographer came up and said, "With your permission, I'd like to turn this footage into a short documentary. It's rare to witness a real-life plot twist this powerful." I smiled politely. "Maybe one day. For now, let's just say, the story told itself." Later that evening, I stood alone on the empty dance floor, watching the staff pack up the remains of a broken wedding. I wasn't angry. I wasn't gloating. I was finally free. Then I felt a familiar hand gently touch mine. Jason again, holding 2 glasses of water, not champagne, no celebrations? I teased. He shrugged. Maybe we can start over, no tux, no dress, just real. I looked at him, long and hard. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just clinked my glass against his and said, let's see where honesty takes us. And, just like that, I walked out of the most humiliating day of my life, as the woman who owned the venue, the story, the truth, and finally, herself, because sometimes, the best revenge is simply becoming untouchable.